Hello! Yes, and welcome to our first notes for Unit 2, and we're going to talk today about Objective 2.1, which is I can convert angles from degrees to radians and radians to degrees. So this unit's all about trigonometry, and trigonometry is really all about angles. So today we're going to talk about the different ways that angles can be measured. The first is degrees. Degrees are an angle measurement where 360 is a full rotation. 360 degrees is a full rotation. The other one we're going to discuss is radians. Now radians is another method to measure angles, only this time instead of 360 degrees, 2 pi is a full rotation. So let's discuss a little bit about what this looks like. Let's say we have an angle. All right. If I went a quarter of the way around, something like this, that would be 1/4 of a full rotation. Half would be half of a rotation. 3/4 of a rotation. And then if I make an entire circle, that would be 1 rotation. So, using degrees, that would mean 1 whole rotation is 360 degrees. So let's break that down a little bit more. That would mean half of a rotation would be 180 degrees. A quarter of that would be 90. And then 3/4 of that full rotation would be 270 degrees. Fantastic. So that full rotation is 360, quarter rotation 90, half rotation 180, and 3/4 270. Now using radians, we have a little bit of a different story. So the reason radians work is because what they're using is the length of the radius of the circle. So think, if I were to make a circle here, my radius would be this length there, right? Which means, quite simply, that I can use that length to measure how much of an angle I'm making. It takes 2 pi radians to complete 1 full rotation. Well, half of 2 pi would just be 1 pi, so a half rotation is pi. Now for those that aren't pi or 2 pi, we use fractions. We never use decimals with radians. Half of pi would be pi over 2, and then halfway between pi and 2 pi would be 1.5 pi or 3 pi over 2. Notice we'd write that as 3 pi over 2, not 1.5 pi. Not 1.5 pi. We don't want to write those decimals, okay? Let's not do that, okay? So now that we know what these mean, let's talk about converting between the two. So if I have a measure in degrees, remember that 1 pi is equal to 180 degrees, and that's our key ratio. 180 degree angle is the same as pi in radians. So if I have a measurement in degrees, I would multiply it by pi over 180. If I have a measurement in radians, I would multiply it by 180 over pi. So let's try a few of these together. Let's say we have 45 degree angle. So if I want to convert it to degrees, I would say 45 times pi over 180. And that would give me 45 pi over 180. And then I just need to simplify the fraction. That would simplify to pi over 4. Okay? Because 180 divided by 45 is 4. So 45 degrees is the same thing as pi over 4. What about 240 degrees? Well, I'd have 240 times pi over 180. So I would get 240 pi over 180. Well, that would be 24 over 18, which would become 4/3. So this is 4 pi over 3. Now 270 degrees, sometimes you can say, oh, I know that 270 degrees is 3/4 of a whole rotation. I know that 3 pi over 2 is 3/4 of a whole rotation. That means that 270 degrees must equal 3 pi over 2. And finally, if we have 170 degrees, I would say 170 times pi over 180. That would become 170 pi over 180. I can get rid of those zeros, and the farthest I can simplify this is just 17 pi over 18. So that's converting from degrees to radians. Now let's go the other way. All right. So this time, if I want to do pi over 3, I would multiply that by 180 over pi. So when I do that, the pi's would cancel out, and I'd end up with 180 divided by 3. Well, what's 180 divided by 3? 60. So that means pi over 3 is 60 degrees. What about this one here? 7 pi over 6. Well, I'd multiply by 180 over pi. The pi's would divide out, so I would have 7 times 180 over 6. So let's put that in our calculator. We can do 7 times 180. That equals 1,260 divided by 6. And we get 210 degrees. There we go. 5 pi over 4. Well, I multiply by 180 over pi. So the pi's would divide out, so I'd have 5 times 180 over 4. So in my calculator, that's divided by 5 times 180. That equals 900 divided by 4. And we get 225 degrees. And lastly here, 13 pi over 8. We'd multiply that by 180 over pi. Pi's would cancel, so I'd have 13 times 180 divided by 8. 13 times 180 is 2,340. Divide that by 8, and I get 292.5 degrees. And it's okay to get decimals when we're dealing with degrees. We just don't want decimals with radians. So there you have it. That's how we convert from degrees to radians, and what degrees and radians really are. Remember, if we're going from degree to radian, we multiply by pi over 180. If we're going from radian to degree, we multiply by 180 over pi. I hope you all are feeling confident with this. If you are, feel free to look at the sample videos if you want some more work, or go ahead and get started on those practice problems. This is Mr. Carter signing off. I'll see you next time.